Welcome to the Fool's Gold TV podcast. Our goal is to discover the gems of the African diaspora. Join us as we get off the resort, experience life like the locals, and redefine Black travel. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.
In today's episode, we're sitting down with Mr. Denzel Nelson. He is an entrepreneur, event curator, the founder of National Rosary Day and Wind Down Wednesdays in the beautiful island and country of Bermuda. Listen, you don't want to miss this interview. Get the gems, get the inside scoop, even get some dating tips. Stay tuned. See you soon.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, my brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Let's do it.
Cool. So let's get straight into it, bro. So I am here with the wine guy, the wine master of Bermuda, Mr. Wine Down himself.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a pleasure to be here. Really, Lemon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, bro. I'm happy. I'm thankful that you're able to join me, man. So, I mean, and we joke about it like the wine guy, but you have so many, have so many things going on with your entrepreneurial endeavors, and you have such a unique niche on the island, right? So we have wine, we have fish, we have unique events, we have festivals. Got a lot going on, man.
Yeah, the wine thing is definitely something that stuck, and it's a good thing that it did because it was kind of the intention. In terms of like what the masses know about me, right? A lot of people don't know I build and develop websites, e-commerce websites, provide payment gateways, and that's really been the foundation of everything that I've done from inception of entrepreneurship. The whole wine thing came into play because I just realized who my clientele were at the time, and a lot of the other bigger businesses here in Bermuda, the hoteliers, the larger corporations, and even like some of the government contracts for that matter. Like as a 25, 24-year-old entrepreneur, a lot of the people that I was getting the meetings, but not necessarily getting the business at that time. And, my business partner and I, who he in his own right has done some pretty incredible things in Bermuda. We just pretty much figured it out very quick and fast that it's relationships, right? And so instead of meeting people at the boardroom table, it would be better that we meet them whilst we are behind the bar, putting on experiences that gets them in a different element that we can control for one. And then for two, use that as a lead-in vehicle to then be able to build bigger and better relationships. And I want to say it's worked like a gem, and I've been very grateful for it. So
that's smart too. So because you knew you had a product, you knew you had something that was valuable, you knew you had a client base, and it was just a matter of getting them to see things from your perspective. So something as simple as a gesture as wine. And conversation. That's really what pulled people in.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. And then obviously we wanted to make money from it as well. It's always good if the lead-in vehicle can also make some money. So
That's smart. I mean, did it start off as like mixers, or did it start off like, there's no like wine events, so so you clearly had a passion for wine before you started this, huh?
Not at all.
Really?
not at all. I didn't. Honestly, I didn't know anything about wine at all. In fact, I only started to take wine courses during lockdown. And I found very quickly, coincidentally, that there's really just two sides of the wine world anyway. There's the business aspect of it, then there's the science and the art, right? The art of making the wines and, knowing all the processes, the maceration processes, and, all the different, there's like 4 or 5 different processes of actually curating wine, and then the distribution of it, and the marketing, and then the business side of it, right? So for me, to be very honest with you, like I found out this idea, it actually came from when I was living in Orlando. The idea, let me qualify that. The idea of Wine Down Wednesday, which is a weekly wine experience that I host, which is essentially for young professionals and visitors alike, to be able to, attend a curated space in the center of the city of Hamilton, the financial district of Bermuda, and in the middle of the week to be able to gather, try new wines, meet new people, make new alliances and acquaintances, and then, go home before dinner. I got the concept whilst living in Florida. I went to high school and university out there in Florida, and I was in Orlando one time. And my friends, I had visited back home. Home, I call Orlando home. My stepmom and sister live out there still to this day. And I went back home one day, and I went to this really cool wine experience, literally called Wine Down Wednesday, and it was the coolest thing that I've ever been to. You have this amazing mix of young professionals and college students from within the area, whether they're attending UCF or Flagler College or something like that. And it was just a great mix of people, and it was literally like $25 for all you can drink wine. Obviously, I think at that age, I probably approached it, probably because I'm also from Bermuda as well, right? We have I guess, an upper hand in terms of our approach to dealing with alcohol. And I say dealing with it, our maturity when it comes to our relationship with alcohol, right? Because we're able to drink at a younger age, 18 obviously being much different from 21. But then also, like, it's sort of ingrained in our culture as well. It's not like taboo, it's not a bad thing, like and so, my experience of going there at the time, and I don't think I was 21 actually, the first time I went there in the UK. I guess I'm perjuring myself, but it's all right. But I mean, any Bermudian that watches this is gonna be able to understand that. But I remember going there, and it's like, obviously I carried myself well. I'm not going there to binge. That's kind of where I was getting to with this. And it's the same concept here within Bermuda. Like, the idea is not to just go there and binge. Like, some people use this like this crutch, like, oh my gosh, like open bar wine on a Wednesday. Well, yeah, because nobody said you have to drink the bar dry. You know,
right.
Like, you can be an adult and like choose to have 4 tastings, or you can choose to have 40 tastings. It's completely down to you, sis. But yeah, so that's cool. It's an idea that I got from Orlando and brought it back to Bermuda, and I instilled it first at Bully Social, which was very, very cool. Met a lot of new people there, built a lot of new businesses out of that, new business relationships out of that. And more importantly, like, the thing that I think that's a huge win is it helps other people to build relationships from it, and I was very intentional. If other people can find value from it, whether it be from relationships, my personal relationships, or professional relationships, I think that's a huge thing.
It's really cool, man, because you touched on a couple like really dope points, right? So you've curated a curated space for entrepreneurs and business folks and people who just appreciate like fine wines, or just anybody who's in a discovery process, right? Because even I imagine myself at 25, I knew nothing about wine, right? And so I want to be in the safest place and space to learn about that, so that if I go on a date, or if I'm amongst other like wine connoisseurs, like I know what's up. I can talk about it. I can pick a good one. I can have a
100%.
conversation. You know what I'm saying? I can have that conversation with my potential girlfriend's mom or dad about it. If they pull something out the cellar, I'm not completely ignorant, or I don't front my face up like it's not sweet enough. I can appreciate the taste and then articulate like the language of being a wine connoisseur. And that's really dope. I mean, that's something you got to put in your toolbox, especially as you travel, but also just building relationships. But needless to say, like, what I really like about what you created in the space is, like I said, it's curated. It's on a what they call an off night. So it's not like a party time. It's before dinner, so you can still handle the responsibilities. And it's a space where that you can let your guard down, both in terms of knowledge, but also, a little wine, help you relax, and then build and have a authentic conversation with a potential business partner. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can find all of it, right?
Yeah, I've literally, you said so many things there that, and every single thing is true, man. It's so cool. Like, initially, literally, my pitch was, guys, I am going to learn about these wines at the same time as you. Right? For the longest while. I mean, like, now, obviously, I have a lot more information, but like, that was my pitch. I wanted people to feel safe, 100%, because I used to think that this was a whole bunch of hub jobs. You know what I mean? Like, like notes of tropical fruits and pineapple, and like, what? Get the hell out of here with that. But it's real though, like, and actually, funny enough, last week Wednesday we started back up, right? And I was telling this
Yeah.
gentleman, I was saying to him, this guy from Trinidad, and it was a really cool um, connection there. Actually, funny enough, he's from the same part of Trinidad as my grandpa, so he's from Tunapuna as well, right?
Okay. Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah, you're from Trinidad, right? And he was like, yeah, man, you could tell the accent and all this stuff. So it was really cool. We got to talking real quick. And he was like, I really don't like wine. I don't like red wine. And I don't like this. I don't like that. And I was like, look, listen, I appreciate you. I don't push. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But most people don't like anything that they don't understand or don't have enough information about, and they can't appreciate it, right? And so that to me, Denzel, 4 or 5 years later doing Wine Down Wednesday, like actually, it's not that you don't like it, you just don't understand it, right?
Yes.
So I started to just show him. I'm like, look, listen, like these wines, we had wines from Australia and New Zealand. I was like, New Zealand wines much more known for their tropical fruits, right? So you're gonna get your pineapples, your passion fruit, your mangoes, right? And so I was starting to like show him about the Sauvignon Blancs from New Zealand. And I told him, walk him through the process. First, you want to look at the color, right? Then you want to put it on your nose, and then you want to put it on your palate, right? And so walk him through the process there. And it was interesting to watch him go from the Sauvignon Blanc to the Pinot Noir to the Australian Penfolds Shiraz that we had there, and then I had some extra wines as well from from France, from Provence to be specific, and was able to walk him through. And each one, especially when we got to the reds, he was like, "Oh, I don't really want to try this," and I was like, "Look, I just pour you a little bit, but like I'll walk you through the process so that way you know what to look for, so you could appreciate it."
Yeah.
And his appreciation didn't. I wouldn't say he's gonna go to the store now and buy it by himself, but he came back that night and had 2 and 3 glasses of the red wines that initially he said that he didn't like and didn't want. And I thought that that was so cool because it happens all the time. And it's just the education process, man. And you give them a little bit of knowledge so that they can appreciate the wine, and it's a completely different outcome.
No, that's dope too, because that's all we need is like a friendly face to help us like not feel to help us let our guard down, not let us not feel so like ignorant about something. And if you are ignorant
100%.
about it, like, this is the safe space to like say, listen, man, I don't even know. So you're gonna have to help me out.
Yep. 100%.
And then so I'm hearing all these different bottles from France, and so I know Bermuda is big on like importing stuff, right? Everything is an import.
Yes.
So how are you sourcing? Like, how are you finding? How are you saying like, yo, this is the bottle I got to get? So especially 4 or 5 years in, your palate has evolved and your taste has changed and matured and everything.
Yeah.
How are you getting your selection?
Okay, so I think specifically when it comes to wine down Wednesday, so I do host other type of wine experiences, right? And I would say wine down Wednesday, we specifically try to find really great quality wines in and around the price point of $20 to $30,
Gotcha.
right? So that leaves you with a great window of selection to explore, but more importantly, a whole nother window of which wines to yet discover, right? Like these are like your I think it's also very interesting. It doesn't mean that the price doesn't mean that they're better wines at all.
Right.
But it just means that there's definitely a whole different selection of wines to choose from. Some of them could be by popularity based on what region that they were produced, what vineyards, if it's like a famous vineyard, and this vineyard produces wines for hypothetically some of the most award-winning wines for like Waterford Estate, or that's in South Africa, or you might be looking for like a Bardva Rosé from Provence, or Champagne Barons de Rothschilds or something like that. So like it all depends, man. But it does give us a huge window of wines to be able to select from. So to answer your question specifically, we initially allow the wine companies, our vendors, our wine providers, distributors, to choose the wines for us. So this would be a great shameless plug for if they're listening, to Discovery Wines. And you know what? I'm going to love up everybody who helped us along this journey. We initially started out with Gosling's for a quick sprint. And then we worked with Pitt and Company for quite an extended period of time. Actually, the gentleman who moved to Pitt and Company is the same guy who helped us out at Gosling's. His name's Neil Munford. He's very knowledgeable with wines, to be honest.
Nice.
Quite popular, well known here in Bermuda.
Nice.
But like Pitt and Company at the time had, they were fresh, new, trying to dive into this game, and I think they've definitely put a dent into establishing quite a respectable portfolio of wines. And now for the last 2.5 years, actually, I would say almost 4 years. Sorry, I apologize about that if you include lockdown, right? Because right. So yeah, about 4 years. We've been working with another really prominent wine distributors here in Bermuda. They're called Discovery Wines and Borrows and Life Wines. They're pretty much one, actually, to be honest. And so that's been an awesome ride. And these guys actually sponsor us for National Rosary Day as well, which is a great segue. But they're like a huge wine distributor here in Bermuda. And this year, what we did, which was a little bit different, is we took the entire calendar and we wanted to put down exactly what wines we're going to be having according to the calendar. After having some type of Russian roulette, sort of like roll of the dice wines each week, just to bring a little bit more structure, man. And that's another thing. Just as we go and as I learn and as I understand what the market wants and needs, and we try to make it more professional. And I'm grateful for everybody's patience and support in our journey. And we want to keep establishing, that cadence and keep that cadence of keeping on developing and making it better and better every year.
Yeah, no, that's dope. That's dope. So, and I mean, it says a lot when you have such large partners investing, reinvesting, right? It's one thing if they're a one and done, but it means so much more to a brand. So for all those folks who are event curators or promoters, we all know the game of like, I'm trying to get, this partner, I'm trying to get this partner for this. And sometimes it's a one and done, whether it's like you're not satisfied with the relationship or they're not satisfied with the relationship. But when collaboration turns into a relationship, like an authentic relationship, you can do more than one event. That's always powerful. And that's always a testament to like the quality of the curator and the curation, right? So now we're going into like National Rosé Day. That sound like a big thing. Sound like you're a boss.
Oh man, it's a blessing, brother. Honestly, it's a blessing, and I can't take all the credit, but it's definitely a blessing. Actually, I wanted to touch on something that you just said about partners and relationships, right? I mean, one of the things that I've learned is that patience. I think we spoke about this in our first conversation about patience, right? So for example, like right now, our biggest sponsor, I guess in that sense, no, legit, our biggest financial sponsor is Bermuda Tourism.
Yeah.
For Wine Down Wednesday, is Bermuda Tourism. And, myself, I'm sure even, Kristen, and all these other experienced providers in Bermuda, we have these huge ideas and big desires, an incredible work ethic. Let's put it out there, But you can't do it alone, and you would know this with Carnival and whatnot, right? You can't do it alone. You do need your sponsors. However, in the pursuance of executing your thesis or your big ideas, sometimes, depending on where you are in your journey, and sometimes people are lucky enough to get that full unwavering support, and a lot of times that comes by way of relationships prior to meeting the boardroom table of your sponsor and getting things signed off on, hence Wine Down Wednesday and why I'm doing it in the first place, right? But going back to what I was saying, a lot of times that support doesn't necessarily look like how you want to. There was never anything wrong with your idea. Sometimes it was, clearly underfunded, or it was understaffed, or under something that then demanded an incredible amount of more work ethic from you, or more energy from somewhere to make something happen. And I think And I think one thing that I would implore amongst anybody who is thinking about trying to, get into experiences or something else like that is to have patience. And the cool thing about it for me that I actually learned about this is so for like National Rosary Day, I've only executed this experience twice, right? And then obviously lockdown, so whatever. But I did it in 2018 and 2019, right? And then obviously 2020 was a no show for Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And so, but in 2019, I like Carnival happens around the same time, and I went to this event up at Fort Hamilton. It was a really dope event. It was so cool, man. It was more of a upscale, like luxury, towards luxury, I would say at least. Soca experience, right? I had a blast. Like, like I said, my grandpa's from Trinidad. I've been down with soca music. My mom used to bring in Destra and Allison Hines and Crossfire and Square One. So like I knew soca and calypso through and through. Yeah. And so I was there able to like really appreciate it, but I'm looking at it from a different perspective, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, this tent, I know how much this costs. These speakers, I know how much this costs. The security, the venue, oh, okay, cool, catering, boom, boom, boom. Watching how they're like, you know what I mean? Not like necessarily studying, but like there to have a good time. But I'm an observer, and I'm an idiot. I'm in the game, so I'm like, okay, like how do they get to this place?
Yeah.
And then come to find out that same experience started in somebody's backyard 5 years ago.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, that's how it starts too, right?
And I'm like, damn, son. Like, all right, cool. We on the right track. Like, we are on the right track. You know what I'm saying? Like, patience. Because in my mind, I'm like, shit, I gotta have like 1,000 people on my first debut and this, and the rest of it. I think our first debut for National Rosary Day, we had like 460 people or something like that. In our second year, we had like 650. So it's dope. And I'm just like, all right, like, we can do this,
Yeah.
Second year, crushed it with like record profits. And you know what I mean? We was up there. It was nice. It was healthy. Yeah. And I'm just like, yo, like, and that's, again, like, without really financial sponsors saying, we're going to give you 50,000 just to put our logo up on your podcast, hypothetically, and we're going to give you X, Y, and Z for, this space to be able to curate a micro experience and stuff like that. I mean, it's just much more to aspire to at that point. Sorry, I don't know if you like. I feel like I took it off track somewhere. But.
Nah, man. Honestly, that's gems. That's the game, because so many people think that something starts big because because you came onto it at its peak doesn't mean that that's its exception, right? And for curate events, like, and it's funny because so this is maybe a little bit of a spoiler alert, maybe a little bit of a sneak peek or some foreshadowing. I had a great conversation for Bermuda tourism, right? And they said, why aren't you doing something for the brothers? Brothers need to do Bermuda. And I'm like, what? Brothers do Bermuda. So we're working on a curated experience where, I'm going to holler at you about that too. And so my reservation was, I don't know how many brothers I can get. I don't want to guarantee like 200 dudes coming out because, especially Black travel is primarily led by women, right? Black women.
Yeah.
So brothers do travel, but it's not as frequently and it's not as in large packs and groups, right?
Right.
So for like guys trips, usually like my annual guys trip, you know what I mean? Go to Miami, that type of thing. But for like curated experience with like dope wines, like unfinished churches, catamarans, other experiences, tours and stuff like that, where you really delve into it. Cigars and stuff like that, where it's like we're really living it up amongst other brothers. Like that's not always the thing. We talk about the unity piece, but we don't experience the unity piece, right? So they were like, yo, if you bring half a dozen dudes, let it start small. We'll work with you. To speak to the testament that you have of Bermuda tourism, of them being a phenomenal support and a consistent support, and like, yo, we'll hold you down, as long as you're bringing folks in. Because one of the stats that I later learned, I think I learned this with Kristen or from Kristen, is that of all the airline travel into Bermuda, only 4% of it is African American or Black.
Yeah.
4%. I'm like, Jesus, that's got to improve, and especially as much as we travel. And the goal here is to redefine Black travel as Black folks
Yeah.
traveling to Black places,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
the wealth and the joy out of that. So no, that makes sense, man. Like, yo, and so then National Rose Day. So tell me, like, walk me through a day in National Rose Day. Tell me like what this day entails, like start to finish. How we rocking?
I can tell you. I feel like I want to tell you what it will look like, as opposed to I'll tell you what it. I'll
Now give me the big picture,
all right.
because I know you got a whole bunch of stuff planned for the next one. 2022 gonna be lit. I already know.
Yeah. So I mean, like this whole thing comes from an idea called Rose Island, right? National Rose Day was an experience that initially was funded by a company called Bava Rose, right? It's a family, a Swedish family actually. Funnily enough, they were, huge luxury brand developers, developers of like whiskey and cigars. But then, rosé was almost like a dismissed wine back in the day, right? But the only reason why it's kind of grown this almost cult-like following is because there's an actual lifestyle behind it. Yeah. So you're not even drinking the wine anymore. You're actually consuming the lifestyle. When you think rosé, you think, beautiful beaches, al fresco dining in the summer or the spring somewhere, beautiful dresses, top hats, not necessarily top hats, I'm thinking sun hats, some like nice, designer shades, whatever it is, maybe on a boat, you know, sailing Bermuda's waters. I was gonna say the Amalfi Coast, but we're just gonna, selfishly promote Bermuda right now.
Absolutely.
And just a good vibe, you know what I mean? Like a carefree summer vibe, right? Like rosé brings that sort of same essence as a swizzle almost, right? You think swizzle, you think summer, you don't think winter, that's for sure, right? But like even though people drink it year round, and that's another thing about rosé. Since we said that, it's like it is turning into almost like a year round consumed beverage, right?
Yeah.
So National Rosé Day. Initially, we chose to actually host this experience in your not so typical part of Bermuda. You would think maybe we would do this on a beach or somewhere where you can see water, right?
Yeah.
Not at all, bro.
Okay.
So this actually takes place at Botanical Gardens, right? And it's have you been to Botanical Gardens?
I haven't yet.
You didn't? Okay. No, so it's like a gorgeous, beautiful landscape, right? Lots of green, lots of like, unique little small garden spaces to play with, right?
Yeah.
And so like we started off with like just like one small little corner pocket of like of the garden, and we've like locked it off, and we made these like beautifully like curated vendor locations and photo ops and stuff like that for people to engage with, right? Well decorated stage, kind of kept it simple, but it was cool. It was approachable. It didn't feel snobby, but yet you can tell there was some effort that went into it, and it was like it was nice, man. It was lovely, and a beautiful mix of people, like from all walks of life, right?
Okay.
All walks of life, right? And everybody dressed in pink, shades of pink and white as well. So it was just, the event was beautiful, and that's the whole idea of it, just a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
So typically the last two events that we had was a 1 day event. It was like from like three to sunset. No, I'm gonna tell you a funny though. That was a learning lesson, because it is hot as hell in in June at 3 o'clock. All right,
I bet
it's hot, brother. It's hot. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here sweating. I'm like, I know I'm hot, so I know you guys must be hot too, right?
Right.
So I think the next year, I think we pushed it back to like, I don't know, it's like 5:30 start. All right.
Okay.
Like got some extra lights and stuff so that people can hang around longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially it was just a 1 day experience. But what we're looking to do is, like I said, expand upon it. It's a lead-in vehicle, no different from how Wine Down Wednesday was a lead-in vehicle. National Rosary Day is the leading vehicle. And funny enough, the two work together. I do Wind Down Wednesday every single week, which gives me, puts my finger on the pulse of the community. I don't necessarily see the same people every week, but I see new people weekly, and those individuals frequently enough to be able to then press a button and say, hey guys, we're doing this experience, we're doing that experience. And they'll be able to connect with me and then come out and enjoy, right? So I'm very grateful for that. But that's the same purpose of National Rosary Day. It's the same thing. It's the lead-in vehicle for the next big thing, which is a weekend of experiences. And essentially, they started a concept. BTA started a concept about 4-5 years ago, had to be maybe 5 years ago. And it was called Bermuda Summer Fridays. I'm going to use this to segue back into you bringing your crew here, right? Now, there was absolutely nothing wrong with the idea, and there's nothing wrong with anybody's idea whatsoever. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of everybody's concepts. The literary lounges stuff, like, Christians, like, book tours and, tours St. George, all that jazz. Like, I'm down. I think that's dope. I do, right? People's food tours and like food festivals and all that stuff. I also think that's cool. Like, the triathlons, America's Cup, how big you want to get it. Like, there's nothing wrong with anybody's concept.
Yeah.
The downfall is when you don't get the macro buy-in of the actual people. Okay. So, but yeah, so what I was saying is they had this concept called Bermuda Summer Fridays, right? And the idea was Bermuda, you can literally get to Bermuda faster from New York than you can on a plane, right? Than you can to the Hamptons. I've not tested it driving, but I'm going to take your word for it. And I think most people would agree. So cool, right? Like, why not have these people visit Bermuda? You can literally be here in an hour and a half, 2-hour flight, right? Makes sense. And it's way more beautiful, and it's warm, and it's tropical, and you can't beat our waters and our oceans and our golf courses and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And and typically these people have money anyway, so you're looking at a certain caliber of customer, right?
Yeah.
They're well traveled. They know what good quality food is, good quality experiences, etc. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think, in my opinion, though, whilst the idea of allowing people to, or encouraging people to come to Bermuda is great, BTA as a thesis, what the hell are they going to do when they get here? Okay?
Right.
Seriously. Like,
Right. What's the next step?
What are they doing? They're gonna go jet skiing? They're gonna, like, all right. So listen, like, I'm not talking about like there ain't nothing to do when you come here. Like, you could do some like really cool stuff that's like small if you like appreciate it.
Yeah.
But like, who are you marketing to? You know what I'm saying? Who are you actually marketing to that's going to be like, we went to a dope concert and saw like David Guetta whilst we were in Bermuda, right after we went to, Kristen White's like bookstore, and she gave us a really cool like niche tour of Bermuda and like of St. George's Town or whatever. Like, that's one part of it, but then the other part of it is the excitement. Like, like your trip should go like this, like like Carnival. Like when you're at Carnival in Miami, right? You have parts of the day that go like this. And then you come down, and then you're having breakfast somewhere at some like little Cuban cafe around the corner or some jazz like that if you're at Miami Carnival. And then you're getting ready to go back up. Like, like, bro, there is nothing like that here. Okay. And at scale, to the degree of what they were trying to do, that's purely why I think that needed to be revised. Hence, I guess this isn't a bash BTA session. So if you're listening, this is why you need to speak to people like me and like Jason Dale and like Rusty G and all these other people because we can't do it by ourselves. And the previous part of this conversation was talking about that sponsorship and you know, people going in for half tackles as opposed to 100%. So.
No, that's real. That's a gem too, because so for one, that's a reminder to the BTA, like, hey, we have the local curators, we have the buy-in from the people that can make these things happen. Because you're right, like you come out for a Friday, but then you're like, all right, I'm here for a weekend. So I'm here Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What am I doing on Saturday and Sunday? So then, you know, so then that's where you come in, like you said, David or Rusty G come in and like, yo, I have something on.
What does Disney do? What does Disney do? They try to make your experience so memorable that 5 years from now, when you say like what was your like, you know, amazing moments, your most amazing vacation, right? You cannot help but put your Disney experience, depending on, you know, unless you're fighting with your wife and your kids the entire time, like you know, or even then, like maybe that's what's gonna make you remember it.
Exactly.
But like, you can't help but put that down as a top 5.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
They try to make it so memorable. And don't get me wrong, like there's parts of Bermuda that are just so majestic. You don't need anybody's assistance with that. You know, you really don't. Like, and I feel like that's that balance that we've been playing with the whole time. You know, like again, this isn't a bash Bermuda or bash BT or bash anybody sort of like monologue. You know what I mean? Like all conversation. I just feel like that is that weird, tricky balance. You know, like we just had the PGA, right? We just had the PGA here. Magical experience, beautiful golf courses, man, and it's gnarly. Like it was gorgeous, you know. But then I was asking him, like, so what were these guys doing when they weren't playing golf? Like, did they go deep sea fishing? Like, did they, you know, have dinner with like a celebrity chef? Like, I don't know. Like, you know, somebody fill me in. Like, what's happening outside of, and that's just, it's weird because it makes it feel like I'm saying like, you know, Bermuda's not enough. No, it definitely is. But
that's the thing. You guys have like, you are the pulse, and BTA is not. They're not event organizers, so to speak. They might have some in their staffing, but I mean that everybody knows every tourism authority and tourism board is like overworked to the max, right? Like there's a million. It's like being a middle school teacher. You're wearing 55 different hats, right? So that's where it's why it's always lean on curators like yourself, because Bermuda is more than enough. And I learned that on my first fam trip. I was like, yo, this place, so many gems. Like, and it's close. I never partied in the cave before until Bermuda. I went on the tuk tours. I'm seeing forts. I've never seen forts. I've seen unfinished churches. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going through historical like walks and tours throughout Hamilton and St. George's, where I'm learning an enslaved people's tour with the Jala, and I learned like it's
a lot of history,
a lot of heritage, a lot of culture. Then you got Doreen with the nature tours and things of that nature. So, dog, there's so much to it, and it's like I really tapped into a different part of my blackness and a different part of humanity in Bermuda, because I didn't realize, like, first of all, I've never seen waters that look like that. I'll send you some pictures, and I'm sure you're accustomed to it. I'm in all, this is an hour and a half flight. So, this is crazy that I don't have a house out here. Like, everybody wants something out in the Hamptons, like you said, but Bermuda, and, you know, somebody made a great point. Like, I think Kristen made another great point. Like, the same cost of living in DC, you can live in Bermuda and have an apartment or a condo or whatever the case may be. It's not a bad idea. You guys have like
that's funny. People say Bermuda's expensive, like oh, it's so expensive here or whatever else. I'm like, dude, I've like lived and traveled some places, and it honestly isn't that big of a difference depending on what city you're in.
Right. Now you guys do have like a $15 cheeseburger. I'm like, whoa, everybody calm down. But you know what I mean? The rest of the stuff is pretty manageable. You know what I
mean? It's a $15 cheeseburger. Yeah. The food here is wild, mate. The food cost here is pretty up there.
But you know what? I mean, and that's a great segue into some of the other things that you're doing, man. Like, you got the wine, you got Rosé Day, you got Wine Down Wednesdays, man. So then also there's the fish and the fish markets, and You know what I mean? Like, this is something that I think a lot of folks don't know about Bermuda too. It's like the fish game. You know what I'm saying? You guys got it on
Can't go
slap.
wrong. Yeah, you can't go wrong. So yeah, and like in full transparency, this is like with a buddy of mine, Tonka Simpson, right?
Mhm.
So, he's the curator and creator and director of all of this jazz. Seaside Grill, the Fish Market, TS Fisheries. It's such a cool machine. Like everything works together. So, um, I don't know about you, but like I'm very finicky when it comes to seafood. Maybe that's a weird thing because I have no idea where my chicken comes from, and I just kind of trust that it's FDA approved, right? But like, especially when it comes to fish, man, I don't know, man. I don't trust anybody's seafood. So,
Right. Because it's
um,
easy to mess up. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to mess up some chicken, but people can mess up some
yeah,
seafood.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can burn chicken, but like burnt fish is just different, you know. Like you can.
Can't
You
hide that.
might still eat. You might still eat the burnt chicken, but you ain't gonna eat the burnt fish, bro. So
Right. Because it's
you gotta
already
make
so
sure
thin,
that
burn a layer, it's a wrap.
exactly.
And it holds the seasoning through and through. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
True
nah,
and true, man.
that burnt taste is it killed it. But yeah,
Yeah.
so you're picky about your fish and where you get it and how is like also how you get it. Like, does it have to be farmed a certain way, or do you prefer like not farmed and fresh,
I
free?
mean, no, dude. Like here we don't. I mean, I don't think anybody has a fish farm here. But like, I mean, unless it's like literally South Shore and North Shore, right? So like,
Yeah.
no, we don't have fish farms here. I don't think. But yeah, our fish comes fresh, man. It's we started a fisheries. It's completely sanitized space. It's, as far as I know, the only place in Bermuda where you can have your fish processed and filleted and packaged in an air conditioned room temperature controlled environment. If you come there early in the morning, it's gonna smell like you can literally eat something off the floor. It's
Yeah.
fully sanitized every single day. So I think this is a project that Bermuda government also has put some energy towards as well. I don't really know too much about it, but in any case, we were already doing it and are expanding on it. So again, if you are listening, you should definitely come check us out and at least
Yeah.
have the conversation. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, I mean, TS Fisheries, man. We also help support the local fish industry, fishermen, not young fishermen, but like anybody
Yeah.
who's a licensed fisherman, we will buy from you, we'll buy fish from you, and we'll pay you right there on the spot. You don't have to wait 90 days, 30 days, whatever it is to get your paycheck. Which also leaves it's another huge opportunity. And then people to be able to actually go and purchase or have fresh fish delivered to them from dock to door, which is a phrase that we've coined. Um, it's been something that's been quite successful. And we're looking to elaborate on that. Maybe mix it up, throw some fresh Bermuda lobster with some fresh snapper or rockfish fillet, and package it up and possibly like blast freeze some fish so that if you want to go and put it in the freezer for a later date, it's nice and it's blast freeze. It's packaged professionally, and you can pop that vacuum seal bag open at a later date.
No, that's dope. That's dope. So, and there's a couple of components, man, and you humbly mentioned these things, right? So, for one, you're providing opportunities for fishermen, right?
Yeah.
Two, well, I mean, which is powerful, right? And then
Yeah.
two, which I'm really loving, is that Bermuda is known. It's a fact that everybody has to import everything. Something comes from somewhere, but this is homegrown.
Yeah.
You found one of the few niches like, no, this is us. This is all us, and we're creating opportunities. And then you're providing services to not only homes, because you said, sheesh, from straight to the doorstep. You know what I mean? But also, I'm sure a lot of restaurants depend on you guys too, huh?
So that's an interesting factor. We actually don't do anything commercially yet. A lot of it is retail. So my friend actually owns 2 restaurants himself. And so the only commercial business is supplying the restaurants that we actually operate. However, I mean, there's always an opportunity for it. Like, it's actually a really weird thing. Like, you would think there's no real commercial fishing at scale, like how it should be. Like, there's no long line fishing that goes out for days at a time. And before I say no, there's none. I don't want to speak in complete absolutes because I do believe that there might be like one boat. But even to that degree, it's clearly for there to still be sometimes shortages, like something's happening, you know? So there's still a need, like, you know, for importing some fish, importing some spiny lobster. There's times when the market is saturated and you're not allowed to import spiny lobster, and there's times when the market, you know, actually we need spiny lobster and things like that. A lot of cool things are going to happen over the next couple of months and year, I would say.
Yeah.
Just stand by and let's see what happens. Let's see how it all plays out.
Man, listen, you know, I'm already locked in. As you're talking, like with lobster and salmons and different types of things, like I'm already planning my brother's Super Bermuda. Like, that's gonna be good. So
yeah, man.
What is your catch of the day? What is your favorite fish that you guys catch?
I think like whitefish, generally speaking, are the best, right? Like you're looking at like any red hine, you know, rockfish, flavors, tasting. You know, I like those fish because they're fluffy, they're tender, right? But then if you're looking for like more firm fish, and this is like, you know, you can actually like look at the grades of meat and actually see it, right? You may be looking at more like pelagic type fish, so like your mahi or your wahoo or your swordfish even, right? But me personally, I personally like if I'm gonna have a fish salad or something like that, something you know, like snapper or hind or something like that.
Okay. So is there a collaboration with, you know, National Rosary Day and then like TS Fisheries? We're gonna get some.
We did the first year, man. The first year out. Now this is where Bermuda gets interesting, right? So like, the first year out, you know, my boy Tonka, he came there. You know, he set up his tent for Seaside Grill, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna try to do something. And again, like we travel, like, you know, we go to different places. Like he goes down south a lot, and, you know, we go to Europe or whatever, and it's like, you know, you see different ideas and you try to implement them here. But like Bermudians are just interesting when it comes to what they like, right?
Yeah.
So here we are trying to do certain things like you know, fish tacos, and I think he did like a fish pasta, like a small fish pasta or whatever. But like people would have been more than happy with just fried food, right? And I guess like hindsight being 2020, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't even an insult; it's a fact. Like we had a small fryer and we couldn't make enough like fried wahoo or whatever. And I'm thinking like, you know, you're pairing it with wine, like somebody's gonna like, you know, put out a little picnic spot, little blanket or whatever, and like, you know, maybe enjoy like a nicer meal. But now they were then more than happy to like stand up, eat their like wahoo nuggets or whatever. And this isn't like, don't this is everybody, dude. Like don't try to picture like, you know, like this is everybody. Like Bermudians, like white, black, Spanish, Portuguese, all of us. Like I was like, oh shit, that's a lesson. So next time,
don't we?
Huh?
Don't we overthink things sometimes? Like we think like, nah, it's gotta be.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did.
It's method, right? Keep it simple.
Yeah. So that's all right. Cool. That's what you want. Next time we'll make sure the fryers are out.
You just watched another episode of Fool's Gold TV. Don't forget to join our memberships to receive access to all of the exclusive getaways, episodes, learning materials, and gifts. And of course, please share, like, subscribe, and follow. See you next time.